Welcome everyone to a new tournament, India's strongest super tournament with world champion Gukesh taking part in it. It's the 4th edition of the Chennai Grandmasters, the Quantbox Chennai Grandmasters. And remember, the first one when it happened in 2023 was when Gukesh won it and made it to the candidates and eventually went on to become the world champion. It was a time where Gukesh wasn't in great form, but after winning this event, changed a lot of things in his chess career. And maybe at this point, he needs another such result. A victory here would boost his confidence for the upcoming World Championship match against Javokhir Sindarov. And that will be super interesting to watch. Gukesh in round 1 takes on his good friend Nihal Sarin. And Nihal is not at the board. The arbiter comes in, switches on the clock. Gukesh gets ready for his first move, and this, dear friends, is the neuro game of the day. What exactly is NeuroGum? It's a product that's viral in the US. It has a clinically proven blend of natural caffeine that gives alertness and L-theanine that gives calmness and stable focus without the jitters and crash. So the next time you're doing something important and running out of energy, don't go for that third cup of coffee or that energy drink, but instead try NeuroGum. The link is in the description. Pawn to e4 by Gukesh. He opens up with e4 and it'll be interesting to see what Nihal responds with. And there you see Nihal coming in a bit late. It's interesting to see how players come to the game. They're all playing in the same hotel. They're staying in the same hotel. It's the Westin in Chennai. You can actually go there and visit it. There are tickets for the visitors. I'll put the link of the tournament in the description. Now, pawn to e4 played here by Gukesh. Nihal adjusts his pieces. I'm super excited for this one because Nihal is also improving his play. In fact, both of them have the same rating right now, 2717. And Nihal is also part of the Indian team at the Chess Olympiad later this year. That will happen. And he goes d6. And he's saying to Gukesh, let's fight. Let's go. Pawn to d4. This is going to be the modern, the perk, the Philidor. I don't know what he'll choose. He goes knight f6. This looks like the perk defense. Knight to f6, as they call it, the perk or the Pietz. Attacking the e4 pawn, knight to c3, defending the pawn. And now Nihal goes g6. He's going for the main line. And I'm actually interested to see if Gukesh goes for the aggressive setup with bishop e3, queen d2, long castle, h4, h5. That would be so exciting. Bishop e3, bishop comes to g7. And now Gukesh plays queen to d2. He's going for this long castle, bishop h6 ideas. And c6 played. Now, very important moment, because black is planning to play b5 and usually white can stop it, but when you play a4 as Gukesh has done, you do away mostly with the ideas of long castle and start playing a little more positionally. I think interesting choice by Gukesh. I would say pawn to a4 is more like a positional approach. Pawn to h3 played now. Stopping knight g4 ideas. He wants to go knight to f3, bishop e2 and short castles, which also gives him a very, very pleasant position here. Knight bd7. And now Gukesh brings his knight out to f3. Nihal pushes his pawn to e5. And well, you can get your bishop out, but then e takes d4, knight takes d4, rook e8 puts pressure on e4. So he takes on e5, which is a good move. And you can see that the d6 square is a bit weakened. So if you take d takes e5, I can already plonk my queen into the d6 square. So he takes with the knight. And I believe Gukesh has a choice. He can take the knight and make the structure symmetrical, thereby closing the bishop on g7. Or he can play bishop e2. He brings his bishop out to e2. And now if knight takes f3, he's ready to take it back with the bishop. White is slightly better. And I think that's what Gukesh would have wanted. Queen to a5 played. getting the queen active. Now naturally you can't take here because knight e4, there's a pin that would be terrible, so he goes short castles. Makes sense. Now actually d6 is hanging, so knight takes f3 and bishop takes f3. Let's see what Nihal does to defend the d pawn. Now he goes rook to d8 and he's playing pretty quick. He's taken only 4 minutes on the clock, which means this could be part of his preparation. And now bishop h6, trying to trade off this bishop on g7. You can play bishop h8, but that would be a huge blunder. Can you find the winning move? Boom! Knight d5, giving up the queen, but checkmate on e7. So that's a trick. Bishop takes h6, taken. And queen takes h6, and now bishop comes out to e6. That's what Nihal does. And Gukesh plays his rook to e1. Because there's no other white piece that can get to g5 or anything of that sort, the attack is not really sitting in. He goes queen to b4, attacking the b2 pawn. And if you have to make a move like rook b1, well, that's a bit passive. But what to do? Yeah, maybe you have to make it. Yeah, that's what he does. Rook b1, but already Nihal Sarin is getting close to equality. In fact, after d5, it would be a very nice position. He goes rook e8. He's not pushing it. I'm sure Nihal wanted to play d5, but he decides to continue normally. Queen g5 played by Gukesh, attacking the f6 knight. And now king up to g7. How should white continue here? He goes rook e3, and this is the thing about Gukesh. He's always looking for some active plans. Maybe h4, shifting the rook. Rook a d8, Nihal doing the best thing that one can do, putting all his pieces on good squares. b3 played. That was the point, to defend the knight and to push the pawn to b3 so that you can get your other rook into the game as well. h6 played by Nihal, pushing the queen away. And now queen g3 to keep an eye on the d6 pawn looks natural. The queen, bishop, rook all look a bit clumsy, I must say. But I don't think there's a good way for black to take advantage of it. Knight h5 square is covered. d5, and Nihal says, I have now all my pieces on their best squares. I must push the pawn. Gukesh takes it. Now, remember, if you would have pushed the pawn, knight d7, black is fine. Black is doing really well. So, Gukesh, I think, is somehow pulling the brakes. But bishop f5, such a cool move. Hitting the c2 pawn. Now imagine that you take here. Then rook takes e3, taken, and then c3 is hanging. So that's also a point to note. Rook e1 played. He's using the knight, which is undefended, to launch this tactic. With bishop f5, rook takes e3, rook takes e3, defending the knight. And now pawn takes d5, threatening to push the pawn to d4. Okay. Queen e5 played, a lovely move. Because now if you play pawn to d4, I have knight e4, takes here, queen takes f6 is winning for white. And if you take here, I take on e4. So by the way, d4 played, knight e4 on the board. And I think Nihal must take on e4 now. No, he goes queen b6, defending this way. Interesting. Knight takes on f6. Clearly don't take here. Knight d5, game over. So that's the reason why you have to take back the knight. Queen takes f6. Queen takes on f6. And king takes f6, taken here. Rook comes back to e2. Well, black's position is for choice. Maybe b6. Yeah, that's what Nihal does. He loves grinding such positions. Active king, good rook. Well, maybe you can argue this pawn is a weakness or a strength, but bishop g4, I think a good move by Gukesh because he's going into the rook endgame. d3 played. Whoa, d3. And already, this could be something. Pawn takes d3. And now first take on g4. And then take on d3. Man, this rook endgame can be dangerous because black's rook is active. Black's king is active. What is Gukesh going to do? Is he going to go passive with rook b2 now? Yeah, he does play it. And look at Nihal's king. It can go king e5, king d4, king c3. But maybe Gukesh's king is also on time. King f1, king e2. He goes for a check. First pushes the king away. And now do you get your king? No, first rook d4. Eyeing the g pawn. Interesting decision by Nihal, but Gukesh does not even care for that pawn. He's like, if you take here, I'll go rook c7, a5, check, and I win the pawn. So rook b4 attacking b3, and he activates the rook. Pawn to a5. Now definitely threatening the g4 pawn. Not really. There's a check still. But Gukesh gets his king out. King g3. I believe Gukesh has managed to dodge the worst that could have happened. King g5. But I feel this game was an incredible show by Nihal of how one can play ambitiously with the black pieces even against the world champion. Pawn to h5. Takes. Is Nihal still trying? He takes back with the king. Well, he still is slightly active. Active king, active rook, pawn to f4. But he's running out of ammo. He's running out of ideas. And plays pawn to f6. By the way, this time control is very interesting in this tournament. It's 90 minutes plus 30 seconds. There's no second time control. And I think that makes so much sense because that really makes the games exciting to follow towards the end. F takes g5. Yes, mistakes will occur. There will be players will go wrong, but will also create more decisive games. King h3. Gukesh keeping the king on the king side. Check. King g3. Rook e4. Brings his rook into the center. King h3. And I guess it's time to repeat. Gukesh gives a small look to Nihal there. Rook b4. Rook comes to e3. And now rook g4. There's just no way to make any interesting progress here, and Gukesh keeps moving his rook from e3 to d3 to c3, and finally the players will most likely agree to a draw here. Rook b4, and Nihal offers a draw. Gukesh is like, sure. And what an interesting game. I must say that playing the Perk defense in game 1 by Nihal was really a bold choice. It also shows the mood that he's come in this tournament. He's not come here to just perform well. He's come here to win the tournament. In round 1, we had Neiman versus Abdusattorov that ended in a draw. And then Andrekin versus Arjun Erigaisi that also ended in a draw. The only decisive result was Alireza beating last year's Challengers winner Pranesh M. And so Alireza already takes the sole lead in the tournament. I love this scene, by the way, where Gukesh and Nihal are analyzing, and the chief arbiter, Gopa Kumar, who is one of India's finest chess arbiters, is patiently waiting there. Generally, the arbiters are like, oh, please sign the score sheet. But here, he let the players have their space, analyze there. And I like how Gukesh and Nihal are analyzing. I'm pretty sure they went to dinner also together at the end of the round. This tournament is super exciting. I hope you enjoyed this game. And in case do like this video, do subscribe to ChessBase India. We are closing in on 3 million subscribers, and we will keep bringing you some amazing games and recaps from this tournament.